Welcome to the show. On today's episode, we have Hope Pedraza. She's a certified holistic nutritionist, nutrition coach, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and a certified Pilates instructor, and the founder of inBalance Studio. Today, we'll be talking about autoimmune issues and the gut health connection. Please enjoy this episode. Hi, Hope. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So, first, let's learn a bit about you. Could you tell us about your journey and why you became a holistic nutritionist?
Yeah, so my journey really started out with my Pilates studio. I have a Pilates-based fitness studio, and my background, like going way back, my background is dance, and that's what got me into Pilates. It just naturally lent itself that way. And so I opened my Pilates studio in about 10 years ago, and I'd always been interested in nutrition and stuff. Just I'd had this kind of my own healing journey with my body. I grew up with a lot of really bad digestive issues and was able to heal my body with a plant-based diet. And so always been interested in it. But then when I opened my studio, I'm listening to the ladies talk to each other about they're doing this diet and that diet. And I'm like, none of y'all are doing it the right way. No, you're not supposed to just be living your life on diets. And so I really wanted to provide a level of support for the ladies in my studio to give them actual like accurate information, and they're not getting it from their neighbor or their sister or whatever, getting them real information on nutrition and how the body works and how nutrition is crucial in their wellness journey and all those things. And so initially it was just for that. I just wanted to provide it for my members. And then as my studio evolved and as I evolved as a person, I decided I really wanted to be able to scale a little bit more than that. And so I furthered my education. I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and started my online business to be able to reach more women.
So, I know that you're really big on plant based diets, and I personally believe that there's good diets for specific people
Sure.
and everybody's a little bit different.
Hmm.
And that being said, I just wanted to say before we get in that I'm mostly carnivore now, and that's
Hmm.
just working for me.
Yeah,
But I feel like everybody should hear about all the different
sure.
ways to achieve health because sometimes things work for others that don't work for someone else.
Totally.
So that's why I like to have a variety of people on come discuss like the different options that we have. With that being said, let's talk about autoimmune issues and gut health. Could you give us a few examples of some common autoimmune issues?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, some common autoimmune issues, or at least the ones that I see the most, RA, rheumatoid arthritis, is one that's super common. Thyroid diseases like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, those are autoimmune issues. I see a lot of that. Eczema, psoriasis, those can be autoimmune issues. So, yeah, there's a ton of them. And it's just an overactive immune system just starts attacking your body and then just cause your body to just go into overdrive, and it can cause a lot of symptoms and a lot of really uncomfortable symptoms that kind of like compound on each other. And so a lot of times people who come to me, they have RA or they have Hashimoto's or whatever, but their symptoms are like so off of what the original problem is because their body is just totally inflamed and just all these symptoms just compound on each other.
So, what is the connection between the autoimmune issues and your gut health?
Yeah, good question. So, for the most part, 99% of the time, autoimmune issues really do stem from what's happening in the gut. And there can be a lot of reasons that this happens, but really when the mucosal barrier in your gut, it's the lining of your gut, the lining of your intestines and your stomach and all of that. It's very thin. It's really only one cell layer thick. So it's really delicate. And when we're doing things, just really things in our everyday life can affect our mucosal barrier. And then when we're doing things to cause even more inflammation, like eating foods that our body doesn't like or eating foods that maybe aren't so healthy, we're putting chemicals and toxins in our body. And even just the things we're breathing in, there's chemicals we breathe in every day just going outside that can affect that. All of these things can put stress on that barrier in the gut and can cause permeability. So it causes these little like micro tears in that mucosal barrier. And when that happens, it allows undigested food particles and protein to leak out into the body, which causes inflammation. And so, hence, downstream, it can cause things like autoimmune issues. And so, 99% of the time, when I'm working with clients who have autoimmune issues, which is almost every client that I have, there's some level of permeability happening in the body just from their body just being in this inflamed.
So, why do you feel autoimmune issues are just so much more prevalent? I know you mentioned some things, but growing up, I almost never heard of somebody with IBS or
Mhm.
Hashimoto's. And now it's like everybody.
Everywhere. I know. It's so true. Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons to that. And So, so really the common denominator, and this is a pretty broad answer, but the common denominator is stress. But the thing is, there's so many different aspects to that, right? Like I just mentioned, like there's chemical stressors and there's biochemical stressors, there's situational stressors, there's emotional and mental stressors. All of these things put stress on the body. And I think part of it is we live in such a fast-paced society now where our nervous system is constantly on edge with, we're so overstimulated with social media and just media in general and living, trying to do all the things. Our nervous system is in like this hyper excited state. So our body very rarely gets a chance to ever really calm down. And so when we're in this high, stress state, it's going to cause stress on the body and it's going to cause inflammation in the body. And I think the other part of that too is, the quality of our food isn't exactly what it was years and years ago. Our soil has been depleted because of over farming and a lot of other things. The pollutants that are used now just in the air and the soil and all those things affect what's going on in our body too. And I think that's affecting, we can do our best to eat organic and everything, of course, but really the nutrients that we're getting just aren't the same as they were 50 years ago. So that definitely affects what's going on in our body.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people because you'll have the older generation say, I used to eat everything and I was
Mhm.
fine. Um,
Exactly.
but
It's
you
not
weren't
the
eating the
same.
same.
Yeah, exactly. It's really not the same. And you actually, it's funny you say that. There is this, I sent this picture on Instagram to my husband because there was a picture on I don't remember what, it was some page that talks about like organic and whatever, but it was like a picture of a chicken in 1925 and a chicken in 1950 and a chicken in 2020. And the way, it's not the same chicken. It's not the same chicken from 1920. So our food has definitely changed.
Yeah, and that's something that I was really concerned with. Once I started learning, I had someone on who talked about regenerative farming.
Mhm.
And that's the scariest thing to just hear like how far we've come
Yep.
from how we're supposed to be
Yep.
farming. So
Exactly.
I went out and I got some chickens.
Yeah.
I have friends now that have like goats
Yeah.
and we can trade stuff and we're feeding them good quality food. We're not
Mhm.
feeding them corn and
Right.
soy, which they're not supposed to eat. They're supposed to eat bugs.
Yes, and
They
grass,
eat
and
bugs.
yes, yes, they do.
Yes. And I one more thing I want to say about that is that I noticed a lot of people who have sensitivities when I would give them my
Mhm,
eggs, no
mhm.
problem.
Yep,
Go to the grocery store,
absolutely.
huge problem.
Yep, yep, it is so true, it is so true, and even this is, like, going off on a tangent, but even if you're to look at going to Europe, for example, like, the standards that they have for their foods and how their foods are processed are so different than they are here in the United States, and if you have any listeners who are in Europe, y'all probably know firsthand, but it's like, for me, I am super sensitive to dairy, and I went to Europe a few years ago, me and my husband, and I'm like, "I can't go to Italy and just at least not have a bite of pizza. I have to have something." Literally ate pizza. I had gelato. I had all the things, did not have a single reaction. So to me, that was proof where it's like our food in the United States just is not the same in other places, and it's just not the same.
Yes, and one more thing about that, I went to Italy
Mhm.
and we went to the farms and they're talking
Yeah.
about how they have some sort of boar or something and they
Mhm.
like to eat that. And the boar, they're like, this is a farm, look how happy they are, look at all like they have this great life. And then we wait till the end and then they're killed very humanely.
Mhm.
And their meat, like the omega balance in
Yep.
it is very beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, my husband said that too. And I didn't go there to eat meat because I don't eat meat. But my husband, he could totally tell. He was like, this is like the craziest thing to taste the difference in the meat. Like it's meat. And it really is. And I know a lot of people, I've talked about this before and post on Instagram, people think it's woo woo, whatever. But like the stress that animals feel when they are killed, like, it does affect the quality of what you're eating. Like, the stress hormones that they're feeling, like, those are going into the meat that you're eating, so it really does affect it.
Yeah, you can't eat a sick animal to be healthy.
Yeah, it's so true.
So, what are some signs that you might have an unhealthy gut? Because maybe some people don't know and they think it's normal.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's so common that I hear that because a lot of times people get the words common and normal confused, but just because things are common does not mean they're normal. So, like bloating and gas and belching and indigestion and diarrhea, occasional constipation, skin issues, a low energy, immune issues, getting sick, none of those are normal. Like they're common, yeah, because lots of people have them, but they're not normal at all. And it's funny because I have this super in depth intake process and all like tons of stuff my clients fill out. And a lot of times they're filling it out and they're like, I had no idea. like how crappy I really felt. So I'm feeling all these things. Oh, yep, I have that. I have that. They're going down the list, but it's you really don't realize it because you get used to it in your day to day, and your body really is good at adapting. So in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm fine. I haven't pooped in 4 days, but I'm fine. It's not normal though.
Yes. And what are some maybe triggers that can lead to an autoimmune disease?
Yeah, genetics plays a big part of it. And I know I don't like for people to be able to use like genetics as a crutch or as like an excuse, but it does play a huge part. And unfortunately, people who have genetic markers for things like autoimmune diseases just have to work a little bit harder for those to not show up. Now, you can outsmart your genes because it's all about the environment that you put your body in and stuff. But unfortunately, you do have to work a little bit harder. And it might mean that you just have to work on eating a little healthier, eating more whole foods. And certain foods can trigger too. Like certain foods can cause sensitivities in the body that can cause a reaction. For most of my clients that have thyroid issues, I always recommend to them to go gluten free. And I don't recommend it to everybody because not everybody is sensitive to gluten. But those who have thyroid issues, it really can cause problems because of the protein in gluten and the thyroid hormone. Like it can cause problems. But foods can cause sensitivities, can cause overreaction to the body. And a lot of times too, I actually was just having a conversation with this. This is again going down a rabbit hole, but stress and trauma can really trigger things in the body. Emotional stress and trauma can trigger things. And so a couple clients that I have, I always have them talk about emotional events or like big events that happen in their life just to connect the dots. And more times than not, I would say a good 70-80% of the time, things can be traced back to there was some either like big life change, an emotional event that happened, there was some trauma that happened, a big shift, a big move or relationship change, something that happened, and all of a sudden it triggers these things in the body. So emotional stress and trauma can also cause things to happen that maybe they don't manifest till years later in the body, but it can cause inflammation in the body that can show up as something like an autoimmune disease later.
Yeah, another tangent, but I
Mhm.
remember I was in a really bad job and I started getting I've never had gut issues. I started getting gut issues and my boss was like always on top of me and like stressing me out. I've never been under so much stress before and I started getting reflux
Yep.
and all these issues
Yep.
and finally I had to be like I have to quit this job because
Yeah.
the stress will make you eat more crappy foods that just perpetuate it. Just everything
Absolutely.
just makes it worse.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And it happens so much. And a lot of times it does require a level of awareness because, again, like we were talking about, like it does require you to be aware of something doesn't feel right in my body, but it absolutely affects your health. And I think the awareness piece is crucial to be able to be aware of, okay, this is affecting my health and I need to do what's best for me and my health.
Yeah. So if I were just like a person who didn't know about these things and I had this digestive issue, I would go to my doctor. They would say, oh, you have reflux. Here's some medication. And then what would happen to my gut
Mhm.
eventually?
Yeah, yeah. That's like pretty much everybody I talk to. They've been to the doctor, they've been on all the meds. And when you go to the doctor, and this, I want to make a disclaimer like, I'm not bashing doctors. I think doctors are important. And then situations, we need doctors and we need medicine, right? There are situations where it's crucial. But when you're dealing with like chronic issues, going to a regular medical doctor and treating the symptoms is not going to do anything. It's going to mask the symptoms. It's going to give you a band-aid and you'll feel better for a while. But most of the time, those things are just like you're saying, it's just going to perpetuate the issue. And in most cases, the medications that give you, the antibiotics, the steroids, all the medicines, it's causing even more damage to your gut. It's inflaming the gut. It can cause even more, permeability, and most of the time, it leads to other symptoms. If you look at the side effects of most medications, it's interacting with everything else. So it's okay, I'm taking this thyroid medication, but this is now making my heart weak. So then I got to take this for my heart, but then this is going to affect my blood pressure. And it's just like this chain reaction. So when you're dealing with, just since we're on autoimmune issues and you're dealing with so many symptoms, going to the medical doctor really is just putting a band-aid on it because it's not dealing with the root of the problem or the real cause of the problem. It's just dealing with the symptoms. So when you're able to look at it from a more like holistic level, from like a functional level and treating the body as a whole, you can really work on coaching up function of the whole body rather than just trying to treat the symptoms one at a time and causing more problems.
Yes. And that's why I'm so very lucky that I knew about that
Hmm.
before because they gave me the medication. I looked at the
Sure.
side effects right
Yeah.
away and I'm just like, what the heck? This
I
is going to
know.
make me worse.
Exactly. And well, and the crazy thing is, or the sad thing is, the regular everyday person doesn't know that. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to my doctor and they gave me this thing and it's going to make me better." And people like us know, no, it's actually making you worse.
Mm, yeah. So, when someone comes to see you and they have gut issues, what are the first steps you take? Do you run any tests? Where do you begin?
Yeah, so as an FDNP, I do a lot of functional labs. And so there's like some main ones that I do. And then depending on the person, I might do a few more. But I definitely like to look at, I get a super in-depth look at their medical history, all their symptoms, all that kind of so super in-depth intake process. And then looking at labs. So with the labs, we're looking at things like your steroid hormones, and we're looking at mucosal health, the mucosal barrier in your gut, the health of that. You're looking at GI mapping, which is looking at all the bacteria and yeast and fungi and all the things going on in your gut. We're looking at histamine levels and your liver function, all of these things that really give a good overall picture of what's going on in the body. Because a lot of times, most of the time, the symptoms that you're talking to me about is not really the real problem. And so having an access to those labs and looking at the results, you're able to put together a big picture to see where the healing opportunities are and where to start with the process. And from there, we would go into doing kind of just some initial protocols with the gut. Most of the time I do a food sensitivity test too to see what foods are reacting in the body. And so we might, eliminate the foods that are in that that showed up in the food sensitivity test. And I give them a good like 90 days. If we can go through 90 days, we're getting rid of these super inflammatory things like sugar and alcohol and dairy and gluten, like those kind of things. And then taking out the foods that showed up in the food sensitivity test and helping them with stress management and with sleep, because all of those things are also affecting all of these organ systems in the body. And then I do a supplement protocol to help the things that showed up in the labs once we get the results back, being able to offer supplements to help, again, kind of coach up the function of those parts that need some kind of balancing out, the parts that are dysfunctioning, where we saw the biggest issues in the labs, to kind of help balance things out and just help the cells out. Because really eliminating the inflammatory things and using the supplements and using the right foods, we're just giving the body a chance to do what it's supposed to do, which is to heal. We just need to calm the inflammation down, because most of the time when people are coming to me, their bodies are just so inflamed. They're dealing with so many issues, so many symptoms, and we just need their body to calm down. Like their body is just freaking out. And so the smallest thing that might not affect somebody else would affect them like hugely. And so getting their bodies to be able to calm down the inflammation, their diet and the rest and the stress management, regulating their nervous system, all those things are going to help put them in the right direction, allow their body to do what it's supposed to do.
So, I've never had like maybe Crohn's or IBS that I know of. I don't think I've ever had it, but I know that you can get flare ups. So, can
Mhm.
you explain like what that is and how can you prevent an autoimmune type of flare up?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing really is, to the point I was just making about letting your body calm down, is giving your body enough time for it to calm down the inflammation, and really pinpoint what the triggers are, whether it's food, what stressors are causing the issues, and being able to manage those and allowing your body enough time to calm down before reintroducing anything else back in. And for some people, maybe it is that you have to eliminate gluten. Like maybe gluten is a trigger, and maybe we have to eliminate gluten, and we can find some other really tasty things we can eat instead of gluten. But a lot of times it is really just pinpointing exactly what it is that causes the flare up. And a lot of times too, I find that the stress part is more of an issue than people think it is, because my story, I had IBS growing up, and I was in and out of doctors. I had colonoscopies and you name it, I had it before I was like 15 years old. And that was what the doctor told me. It was like, "Oh, you have IBS," which basically is doctor speak for, we don't know. We don't know what to tell you. It's IBS, and they don't give you anything to do. They don't give you any help or support with it. And for me, I was young at the time, but as I get older, I like to learn. So I would start reading books and stuff, and just being able to inform myself and educate myself on some possible things that could be triggering it. And for me, that was why I went plant-based. I was able to find that's really what made me feel better. And it was getting rid of the dairy and, some other things. But it's really, first of all, it's learning your body, right? Learning your body, what things affect your body. It's learning what your triggers are, what things trigger the flare-ups that you're talking about, and then knowing what to do to manage it. And again, maybe it is eliminating certain things. Maybe it's eliminating for a certain amount of time. Because a lot of times too, when I have people that have food sensitivities or foods that cause these flare-ups, we get rid of them for 90 days or so. Their body calms down, and we try to reintroduce things back in. And a lot of times too, it's not so much about eliminating it forever, because I know that's scary for people too. I'm going to have to get rid of eating these things like for the rest of my life. A lot of times it's just knowing that maybe you can eat it on a rotational basis, right? It's like a rotational diet where you don't eat it all the time, but I know I can eat every now and then and I'll be okay. Or you know that if I eat this thing, you're choosing to eat it from an empowered place. Cause like my body's going to react, but I really want this thing. And you're prepared for what's going to happen because now this is what it is. I think it's just that awareness and that sense of empowerment where you can make decisions on what you eat and what situations you put yourself in to know how your body's going to react and make your decisions accordingly.
So, what are some maybe mistakes people might make with autoimmune issues?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. And I think the first mistake, and I hesitate to say it, but I think the first mistake is jumping straight to all the meds. And I know that medicine has its place and is important sometimes, but I think that's when you're in that situation, that's your first response is I need to go to the doctor and get meds immediately because you're so uncomfortable. You're dealing with all the symptoms. I challenge people that are in this situation to really do the best they can from a functional holistic perspective first to try to get, and maybe you still have to get the meds, but maybe you get less meds than you would otherwise, but really trying to do it from that perspective to really try to calm down the inflammation and pinpoint the things that are triggering whatever it is going on in the body. And then for something like thyroid, I know something like thyroid can get serious because you don't want it to end up being like thyroid cancer or something. And I know sometimes the medicine is crucial. But I do also know that I have had clients who have gone to like the lowest dose possible on their thyroid medication because they've been able to do all these things to help coach up the function and the rest of their body. So I think that is a mistake that people just jump straight to the hardcore meds without trying to really regulate their body first. And then two, I think going straight to like dieting. I talk about this a lot on my social media where it's I think it's to no fault of our own because we've grown up in this diet culture for the last 30 however many years where that's what diet culture tells us. It's oh something's wrong, try a diet. You don't feel good, try a diet. You try all these diets to try to fix the things. And I'm not saying it can't work for some people because it can, but I don't really think that's the right approach. Again, it's not really about the diet. It's about what's going on your body. It's what's going on around you in your environment and addressing that stress piece, which I also think is a mistake. People not addressing the stress. They address the diet, but not the stress. But I think it's being able to just look at it more of opportunities for healing rather than, oh, I need to try this diet because that, surely that'll fix everything that's going.
One of the major things that I personally did to cut down on inflammation was I cut out like the corn, soy,
Mhm.
safflower, all those inflammatory
Mhm.
oils, which is incredibly hard. They're in everything.
Everything.
They're the cheapest things on earth.
Yep.
And so at home, it's easier because I just eat like real foods. I don't go for boxes and canned stuff like that. But what would you do to avoid them, especially when you go out to eat?
Yeah, it can be hard. It can be hard. And while I am a firm believer in eating whole foods and all that, I also am a believer in balance. And so for me, and I encourage this with my clients too, because I know, especially when you're dealing with autoimmune issues and things like that, where you're already having to restrict certain things for an extended period of time, it can feel it can feel constraining and restricting and it can feel really just exhausting. You can't always avoid all of those things when you go eat out. And for me, it's okay. If you're going to go out to eat and you have that, then so be it, right? But I think it's definitely a lot easier when you are able to buy your own food and cook for yourself and you're able to exchange those things for other like avocado oil or something like that's much less inflammatory. But again, it is all about balance just in terms of if you're going out to eat and if I think there is a good balance there.
Mm. Yeah, for me, I'll say something like just maybe butter and vegetables and don't
Mhm.
add anything to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Sometimes they can.
Yeah, it's true, it's true. That's the thing too, you can always ask, and the same with like, I have a sister-in-law that has celiac, and so for us, we have to strategically pick certain places that we know have a gluten-free menu, and she's, like, super sensitive to it. But I think most restaurants nowadays are really used to people asking for specific things, so I think most of them are pretty accommodating for dietary restrictions and stuff these days.
So I know there's like a huge push to go more plant based, but what I'm always worried about is the unhealthy, the fake meats, the processed foods, the fillers, gums, binders, all
Mhm.
those other things that they add into it. So these are not really foods
Mhm.
and they're being marketed as this is going to really be healthy and save
Yeah,
the planet.
yeah.
So can you walk us through? you're going to the grocery store. How do you
Yeah.
avoid these foods and
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. And there is very clever marketing out there. And these days, anything that has the word like plant based on it, people automatically think it's healthy. But I've said it a million times before, like, you can live on Oreos and French fries and be vegan. So there is a right and a wrong way. I say wrong. I don't like using that word, but there is a good and a not so good way to do it. So when you are going to the grocery store, I am a huge proponent of sticking to the whole foods. And so you're looking for obviously the produce section, but then you're going to the frozen section and you're going to finding the legumes and the nuts and the seeds and all the things that come in like their whole purest form, like what regular food looks like. And you're able to create dishes and foods that are just as tasty as if you were to add the processed stuff in it, but they're much fewer ingredients and really have a lot more nutritional value.
So, how much do you think the food sensitivities could be from maybe some other things that we're doing, like maybe topical products,
Yeah.
maybe something else that we're putting in our environments
Yeah,
that has
yeah.
changed?
For sure. And those really do, those are considered stressors on the body. Like we talk about the chemical stressors and it's in the detergents you buy and the cosmetics and the personal care products and cleaning supplies. So it really does affect our body and it really does affect how our body functions. And you can get to a point where I know your liver is your body's natural detoxification system, but it can get to a point where your liver is like working really hard and not able to get rid of as much gunk as it would be otherwise because it's has all these buildup of toxins and stuff. So it really does affect you. And that's one of the things I walk my clients through too. When we're talking about stress, I talk to them about stress and all these different facets of stress are giving them some options for some cleaner cleaning supplies or here's how to make your own using vinegar baking soda, things you have around the house, things that are much less toxic but still just as good as cleaning surfaces in your home. And here's some brands for some cleaner cosmetics, right? Because there are so many brands out there now. Because it didn't used to be that way. I feel like even just in the past like 5 years, I feel like even just 5 years ago, there's a few brands out there and they were all like really expensive and like nobody wants to pay $100 for some plant-based lipstick, but I feel like nowadays there's so many brands out there that are doing so many great things in terms of clean ingredients and sustainability and all of these things that you could easily find personal care products and cosmetics that don't have the added, petroleum based products and ingredients in it and are much cleaner and safer for your body and safer for the environment and all of that, but it definitely plays a part into the stress on your body, and which I know firsthand. My mom worked with a girl who actually got skin cancer from some products she was using on her body, and that's what the doctor told her, like, oh yeah, it builds up and then this is what happens. So it does happen. Hmm.
Mm, that's crazy.
Hmm.
What product was it? I have
I
to know.
know.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say is that I remember when I was younger, Bath and Body Works. That was the jam.
Yes, it
Everybody
was
was
the
having that spraying everything
thing.
everywhere. We were all full of chemicals.
Totally.
And we're on the birth control. Everybody gets hormone problems. Then you get like estrogen problems. And then you get gut problems. And then you get thyroid problems.
I'm telling you. I just posted something the other day about this because I saw somebody talking about it, but I grew up in this generation because I was guilty of it too. That was the whole reason I got a birth control when I was whatever, however age I was, 18, whatever, 17, was because I had all these super irregular periods and like debilitating PMS. And it was saying like we grew up in this generation where you had hormonal problems or you had skin problems, right? And they're just, oh, we'll put you on birth control to fix your skin. And now we're in this generation where everybody has PCOS and infertility and gut issues. And you have all these things where it's okay, there's a common denominator here. This is clearly causing some issues in the body.
Mm, yeah. And yeah. Anyways, so let's get into functional nutrition. How does it take a different approach to autoimmune issues and gut health than going to a traditional nutritionist?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you go to typically if you're going to just like a regular nutritionist, they look into what's going on in your body. But when you're taking the functional, the approach to take is an FDNP, using the functional labs are really giving you a deeper look inside what's going on. And you can a lot of times you can figure out what's going on in the body, but it's a lot of trial and error. And when you have access to the labs and you're able to read the labs um in a really like informed, educated way, you're able to really pinpoint exactly what's going on and take a more direct approach, a more pinpointed approach to healing the.
What are your thoughts on fasting when you're trying to heal your gut? Is
Mhm.
that something you recommend? Maybe intermittent, maybe alternate day, or you don't like it
Yeah,
at all?
I'm not a huge fan of fasting, and mostly because I work a lot with women and their blood sugar, and a lot of women that come to me, a handful of women have like really ruined their cortisol levels from trying to do fasting and stuff because I think, no, I'm not saying it can't work because it can work for people. I know people that it works wonders for, but a lot of times when if you're it's not for everybody, first of all. So let's say that because I agree with you what you were saying at the beginning. I am all about bio individuality and not, there's no one diet for everybody. But I think when you're trying it just because it worked for somebody else, it's not a good reason to try it. But I found that it can cause more stress on the body because when your body is going without food for long periods of time, it does raise your cortisol levels. If you're already cortisol dominant, it's not going to be a good situation. And so I find for a lot of women, especially women, it's different for men. It's different for men. And I do want to say that most of the studies that you see out there about intermittent fasting were done on men. Women weren't added into clinical trials for studies until the 90s or something. Like they weren't even in these trials. So a lot of the statistics out there aren't even for women's bodies. Women are much more sensitive to things because our hormones work in a cycle. Men's hormones are like this. Like men's hormones, they don't work in a cycle like women's do. And so when our hormones are working in this cyclical pattern, things going for food without long periods of time is going to affect our cortisol, which affects other hormones. I'm not saying ban it, never, I'm against it like 100%, but I just find for most people, it's not the best thing for them, especially if they're already dealing with like imbalances in the body. It doesn't always work great.
Yeah, I agree. But what I like to tell people is because most people, when they want to do intermittent fasting, they don't eat until late,
Uh huh.
which I think that's the worst thing you can do because late at night, your stomach has more problems digesting, and then you can get reflux from eating too late.
Mhm.
And that's just not the right way. Shouldn't we switch it and
Right.
then eat in the daytime and then
Hmm.
stop eating?
Right.
That's just what yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I could see it causing more problems like eating so much later or make it like in the middle of the day, right? Wait till the middle of the day and eat all your calories then if that's when you want to do it. But I agree, it can cause more problems. And two, again, with the blood sugar, depending on what you're eating, if you're eating is so much at night and your blood sugar spikes in the middle of the night, it's going to keep waking you up. You're not going to get good sleep. And yeah, it can definitely affect lots of other things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I noticed when I stopped eating 5 hours before bed, not 4, it had to be 5, I don't know why. But 5 hours before bed, I slept way better. I didn't have any sort of reflux even if I ate something bad because I
Yeah.
had a, fun day or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. That's the thing though. You just have to find what works for you and you have to find what works for your body and where you feel good.
So, when it comes to healing your gut or maybe calming it down if you've eaten a bad meal, do you have any go-to supplements or herbs or teas or anything like that you go for?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. And I do have a bunch of different supplement cocktails that I get from different companies, from especially for my clients to build a healthy mucosal barrier. But it's a lot of things, zinc and glutamine and berberine, like all of those types of things, like slippery elm and marshmallow root. All of those really help build a healthy gut, the mucosal barrier that I was talking about before. And you can really find some good supplements. I mean, you could just go on Amazon and look for mucosal health supplements, and most of them are going to have some sort of combination of all of those things in them that really do help build a good healthy gut mucosal.
And what are your thoughts on people who are maybe more constipated?
Hmm.
What are some things they can do?
Yes. So my first question would be how much water are you drinking? Because I find 99% of the time that's the first problem. They think they're drinking enough water, but they're really not. And I know your water intake can differ depending on a lot of things, but typically say 3 liters a day is a good recommendation, right? But so water first of all, and then it's your fiber intake, which is why I'm so big on the plant-based diet, because or at least a plant-focused diet, is you're getting a lot of fiber from plants. You're getting it from the fruits and the vegetables and the nuts and the seeds and legumes, all those things, but getting a good dose of healthy fiber each day. And really, the fiber and the water are probably the two most crucial things. And then looking too on what things could be medications. If you're taking NSAIDs, if you're taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, all those things can also contribute to constipation. So looking and seeing what you're doing that could be contributing to it. But the water and the fiber really is crucial.
And what are your thoughts on, because you mentioned pain medications causing constipation. So let's say someone has a lot of pain. What are some maybe alternatives that they can do to deal with that pain so they don't go for these
Yeah.
more stronger drugs?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of anti-inflammatory supplements that you can take. Turmeric really is my go-to, and that's what I typically recommend for people who, as I mentioned before, I deal with quite a few people that have RA or work with or have like RA type symptoms, and turmeric and curcumin are like naturally anti-inflammatory, and those are really my go-to for people that deal with pain. Taking it on a regular basis can just relieve the inflammation in the joints and stuff, and can prevent you from having to go to those over the counter medications. And then it's going to sound crazy, but really hydration. Hydration has a lot to do with how your joints feel. Like your joints need synovial fluid, which or have synovial fluid, which require like water. It requires your body to be hydrated, and a lot of times, just not being hydrated enough is going to make your joints feel stiff and achy. So hydration can help a big part in it.
So tell us a little bit about your free protein packed breakfast guide. Who is that for
Yeah.
and what are they going to get?
Yeah. I find, when I'm working with my clients, and I want to be clear, I don't teach people how to be vegan. That's not my thing. And that's not what I do with my clients, but it's really just about taking a more plant focused approach. So just how to put the focus to plants. I would say pretty much every client I've ever had, none of them have really wanted to be vegan. They just want to learn how to incorporate more plant based meals or more plant based foods in their diet. And so when people are going that direction and they're asking me like, okay, how can I have more plant-based meals throughout the week? And really the easiest one, in my opinion, is breakfast. That's the easiest one to make plant-based. If you want to do one plant-based meal a day, I feel like breakfast is the easiest one. And so in that protein, in that breakfast guide that you're talking about, it's all mostly plant-based, and it does have options for those who are like vegetarian. So there's a couple in there where you could add in eggs if you wanted to add in eggs, but it's just putting the focus on plants, and they're all packed with proteins. I think that's another myth and misconception we hear a lot about, is like you can't get enough protein on a plant-based diet. And so offering people a chance to make some good plant-based recipes that are full of protein to really start your day off with a good stable blood sugar and keep you steady throughout the day. Yeah, that's what you'll find in the guide.
So when you say protein, that made me think about something that I always like to mention is hemp seeds.
Yeah,
Hemp seeds are amazing,
they are. I love.
especially if you have thinning nails. Like my nails are like real. It's crazy. Huge. And if you go on Amazon, you'll see the reviews and they're like, "Look at my nails."
Yeah. Yep.
So you can get protein if you
Yes.
really look into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely can. And like I tell people who say that, like if you just go Google like vegan bodybuilders, like clearly you can get enough protein. So there's people out there that get more than enough protein. But hemp seeds are a great go-to. And that's one of the things I mention so much to my clients too. And because they're so high in omegas, which is something you really have to strategically find too on a plant-based diet. So yeah, hemp seeds are awesome.
And what do you think about, because some people, when they eat a lot of greens or whatever, they can get some digestive
Mhm.
issues.
Yep.
And some people recommend having more bitters
Mhm.
or having enzymes. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on
Yeah,
those?
yes to all of that, really. And I do want to say, because I hear that a lot of times too, where people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I feel worse than I did before," because they're all bloated and stuff. First thing is, if you're implementing more plant-based foods, to implement it slowly. Like your gut is just like any other muscle in the body that you have to train. And so when you're putting new things in it, they have to learn how to digest efficiently and effectively all these things. You're building up the enzymes and the bacteria needed to digest everything properly. And so giving your gut a chance to get used to these new foods that you're throwing at it is first rule of thumb. So you're not just throwing every possible plant in going for 200 grams of fiber right out of the gate. Your gut is not going to like that. So implementing things slowly. And then I am a huge fan of digestive enzymes. And for the most part, I find most of the clients that come to me need, or there's some sort of insufficiency there. And so taking digestive enzymes to help the body do what it needs to do with digestion. And a lot of times their pancreas isn't making enough enzymes that it needs to. And so giving it a little bit of help, a little assistance. And then the bitters are a good way to help too. And it really does help with digestion and help the body out a little bit.
So I've been hearing a lot of people doing like a bean type diet to get their fiber and to get their gut health back, where you just start having like maybe 2 tablespoons a day and slowly
Hmm.
increase it. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Again, throwing too much at one time is going to be not good. And especially too, if your body is kind of already in an inflamed state, it's just your body may not like throwing all of it at once. But yeah, I think implement it slowly like that is a great way to do it. And then another thing is finding, because your body digests everything differently. And even with beans and legumes, it's going to just digest all of them differently. So finding the ones that feel good to your body. So like with a lot of my clients, lentils are like a go-to because, and I love lentils too, because they're really high in iron and zinc, which is sometimes hard to find in plant-based foods, but they're much easier to digest than a lot of other legumes. So I have clients who chickpeas or black beans might do a number on them, but they're totally fine eating lentils. So it's also finding the ones that work for your body, that your body is like, okay, like I can handle these, and then going from there.
Yeah, I remember because I did an elimination diet
Hmm.
a while back, and you'd be surprised. Some of the most benign foods to
Yes.
everybody else are a
Yes.
problem for you.
Exactly. It's so true. And I just recently did one, and it was like coffee and caffeine were both on there. And she's, no, like it's the things that you drink it every day. You don't think, well, this coffee's affecting me, but it showed up on the test. And I'm like, your body's saying otherwise. So,
Yeah, for me it was chickpeas, so
uh
I
huh.
couldn't have hummus.
Yes.
That's a big
Love.
disappointment. So I switched to tahina.
Okay.
It does it. It does it.
Okay.
And the other one was cucumbers and
Mm.
squash.
So random. So
Really
random.
crazy.
I know.
But yeah, if you were to like guide someone to do an elimination diet, how would it be?
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough question to answer because I I don't really, for the regular everyday person, it's not typically something I recommend doing on your own just because you're not doing it from like an informed way. But if you were to do it on your own, it's really about starting small and and doing it a little bit at a time. So like just eliminating everything isn't really going to give you a picture of what. So it's eliminating the things that you think are causing issues, right? And then giving yourself time for your body to calm down, which could be a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, and then implementing them back one at a time to see how your body reacts. So that's really the way I would say if you're going to do it on your own. Um Implementing it one at a time, maybe starting eating it once or twice a day for a day or so to see how your body reacts, and then you can pinpoint if that is the food that's causing the issues.
Yeah. What I did, which is probably the wrong way, but I'm just going to tell you, and then you can tell me how crazy I am. I just ate filet mignon, which I know is meat, whatever. But that, because I know I don't have any problems
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
at all. So I just had that for a month and it was terrible. It's boring. Not an not a fan. Whatever. I needed to find out what it was that was
Yeah,
causing it.
yeah.
So I did that for a month and then I added the eggs. My chickens are great, no problems. So then I added one food at a time and literally because it had been so long without any sort of inflammatory response,
Mhm.
right away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Crazy.
for sure. Yeah, and that's why I really encourage, if you are gonna do it on your own, to give yourself enough time, because you're right, once your body, like, gets all of that out of its system and calm down, your body's gonna feel it immediately when you put that food back in, for sure.
Yeah. So I can say that it was terrible. It was very hard.
Yes,
And
that
now I'm like
is.
able to eat more things and I know
Yes.
what I can eat and what I can't
Mhm,
eat. And
mhm.
once you don't want to do it
Yeah,
anymore, it's
exactly,
not as fun.
exactly. Yep.
So, anyways, how can everybody work with you?
Yeah, you can. I'm probably most active on Instagram. I'm at the Hope Pedraza. Always posting things to help educate and inform and all those things. And then I do have a free Facebook group. It's Live Wholesome and Healthy, where it's all things holistic nutrition and holistic living, and a lot of things about plant based eating. And sending me a message on any of the social medias is always a good way to get in touch with me. But those are probably the two places where you can get the most information to start out and learn more.
And what kind of clients are you like the most eager to help? What are you looking for?
So far, it's been mostly people that are on some of the on the spectrum of autoimmune issues, whether they know they have it or they think they have autoimmune issues. But really and truly, it's just women who it is it's a it's a self-led decision, right? Like, it has to come from a place of like commitment and like feeling empowered to do, because it is a process. Like when working with women, it's you have to be committed to the process or it's not going to work. And it is you have to be committed to, okay, this is going to be tough for a while, but the end result is going to be worth it. And so it's just women who really, they want to get rid of their symptoms. They want to feel better. They want to feel like themselves again. They want to feel like freedom in their body again. And they're willing to put in the work that it takes to feel the way they want to feel.
So, guys, if you've reached rock bottom and you're really sick and tired of feeling sick and tired,
Exactly.
now's the time.
That's it.
Is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with before we have to go?
Um, I think my parting wisdom is just to pay more attention to your body and to really build that sense of awareness, because changes we want to make in our body or in our life in general, really, it all comes from this place of awareness and being aware of what's going on in our body. And if you're concerned about how you feel, you're feeling symptoms and you don't know what's going on, just be more aware. Write it in a journal. How you feel when you eat certain things, how your stress levels affect you. And that's one of the things I do for my clients is I have them do a little 2 or 3 day journal. And it's not just about the foods they eat, but I want to know, how are you feeling when you ate? How did you feel before you ate? How did you feel after you ate? What things were going on in your life before you sat down to have dinner? Because all of those things play into a part of how our body digests and metabolizes food. And it really is just building that sense of awareness. I think awareness really is key to making real lasting changes. And so if we can just build on that awareness piece, it really does make a world of a difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And especially the sit down and relax to eat part. Most
Hmm.
people won't do that.
Yes,
And that is such a difference.
it is. It is.
So, anyways, I'm going to put all of that in the show notes so everybody can go and check you out. Thank
Thank
you so much for your
you.
time.
Thank you so much.